Good morning, Robin. More names are likely to surface soon. The woman charged with running a high-end escort service in Washington wants to call as witnesses all of her prominent clients.
Movers and shakers may be breathing a secret sigh of relief this week over the suicide of the notorious D.C. Madam who hung herself on Friday. Or did she?
Deborah Palfrey's ailing 76-year-old mother found the D.C. Madam hanging in a shed attached to Mom's Florida mobile home. An apparent suicide. But prior statements made by the convicted prostitution ringleader herself have the internet and the airwaves buzzing with conspiracy theories. Deborah was asked by syndicated radio host Alex Jones if she was planning on committing suicide.
No, I'm not planning to commit suicide. I'm planning to go into court on April 7th, and I plan on exposing the government. In ways that, I do not think they want me to expose them.
Joining me now from Austin, Texas, the well-known radio host himself, the conspiracy theorist and documentary filmmaker Alex Jones. Alex interviewed Deborah Palfrey in March of this year when she told him what you just heard, that she would never commit suicide. So, Alex, welcome. What do you think? Do you believe this to be as the authorities say it is?
Geraldo, first off, thanks for having me on. She was a very nice lady, very genteel. There's no doubt in my mind that she was murdered. Let me just go through some of the basic evidence. She told me repeatedly on my radio show, and those interviews are posted at Infowars.com in full, that she would never kill herself, that she wasn't planning to kill herself. I pressed her during breaks in front of the board ops. I said, listen, this is dangerous. You've got to say who these people were. Do you know? And she said, well, I'm not going to say. I just want this all to end. And I said, you've got to say who it was or you're not safe. She said, listen, I'll never kill myself. If they claim that, I was murdered. So we have a tape of her saying she wouldn't commit suicide. Now, NBC in Florida, where she had a condo, is reporting that one of her friends, who was the manager of the high-rise condos, and he's on tape saying 2 days before she was killed, before she died, she left to her mother's and said, look, I'm being followed. I think there's a contract out on me. I'm not going to kill myself. This is on tape. Then you look at Brandy Britton. She was facing 6 months in jail last year, shot her mouth off, Miss Palfrey said, the D.C. Madam said, and said, I'm going to talk about who my Johns are. This is hypocritical. She was a professor. She had a psychology degree. She was saying, this is hypocritical. I'm going to tell who my Johns were, and then she hangs herself. Number one, Geraldo, you've covered a lot of criminology. You know, women don't normally hang themselves. First, one of her girls kills herself. Now she kills herself.
They take pills.
Exactly. And on top of it, in fact, 90% of women take pills. That's the way they do it. Now, men shoot themselves and hang themselves. Now, on top of it, her mother said she was happy, saying she was going to fight it.
Alex, let me take a break. Stand by right there. I have Judge Pirro and Kim Guilfoyle also right back. Back live just a second before I continue our discussion on the death of Deborah Jean Palfrey, the so-called D.C. Madam, who the authorities say committed suicide, but some have doubts. Alex Jones, the popular radio host who interviewed Deborah Jean Palfrey, had been saying just before the commercial break that she, the D.C. Madam, was a happy person. Why don't you finish that thought, Alex, and I'll get on to our other guests.
Well, Geraldo, it's just that she told her mother, she told the person that managed the condos where she lived, and she was friends with everybody, that she was going to go on and going to fight. Others that knew her said that she was going to write a book when she got out in about 6 to 7 months. Could have been as many as 70 months, but certainly not 50 years, as some were saying. And you have two women hanging themselves. I mean, this is ridiculous with these supposed, very wealthy, very powerful Johns. I think this is, quote, taking out the garbage, somebody trying to get rid of evidence.
I hear you. I hear you.
Of an election year problem.
Okay, Alex Jones, let's, Alex has a reputation sometimes of being, flamboyant in his opinions, let's say. I don't know that to be the case about you at all, Judge Pirro or Kimberly Guilfoyle. What do you say, Judge?
Well, I had the opportunity, Geraldo, to interview Deborah Jean about a year ago, and I talked to her about Brandy Britton and her suicide. And what she said to me is, they don't just come and get you, they terrorize you. But she made it very clear that she was not made of that. And I agree with you, Alex.
Not made of that means she was not suicidal.
She was not suicidal.
Right.
She was a woman who had a very strong core. She was a fighter from the get-go. And one of the things she said to me, Geraldo, was that, look, this isn't about madams. This isn't about prostitution. This is about me. Suggesting that there was no government program to take down prostitutes. There was a program she believed to take her down. Think about it. You've got a top State Department official. You've got a military strategist, a United States senator. You've got all of these individuals, lobbyists, paying for prostitutes. At the same time, you've got the head of the Maryland State Police who's being indicted and convicted for using the Executive Protection Unit to move the prostitutes around. You've got a federal prosecutor at that time who was murdered and who yet his case is unsolved. You've got all kinds of corruption going on.
Luna.
It's Jonathan Luna, and indeed I have the book, The Midnight Ride of Jonathan Luna, for anyone interested. Everything raises a doubt.
Kimberly Guilfoyle,
yes,
host of the lineup.
As a former prosecutor, right away when I heard that this was an apparent suicide, I couldn't believe it. I was doubtful from the get-go. If I was a prosecutor on this case, I would make sure and investigate it very thoroughly. I think it's far too coincidental that the two women involved in this would both hang themselves. Right there, I think it gives cause for suspicion.
Why is the Justice Department sealing the names of the Johns when they could very easily be indicting them as they did?
Let me start this way. Alex, I want to thank you, because you really have shined some important light on this case. I just want to say one thing here. I call on Governor Charlie Crist, who's a great guy, an honest guy, a straight shooter, to have his Attorney General investigate the apparent suicide of Deborah Jean Palfrey, because if these three people are all agreed, and I tend to agree with them, this is too perfect, this is too stinky to pass this stink test.
There's more.
Alex, you've got to tell me another time, because I got a million things to talk about on the show.
She was paid up 6 months. She wanted to make sure that her...
Good point. All right.
Excellent point.
Investigate this. It does not appear as if it is likely that she committed suicide.
And she served time before.
And she served time before. Okay, you two stick around. I'm going to...
Well, the fact that you're so visible really protects you going on Larry King and other big shows, but you want to put it on record that you're not planning to commit suicide?
No, I'm not planning to commit suicide. I'm planning to go into court on April 7th if indeed we do have the trial, and I plan on defending myself vigorously, and I plan on exposing the government, in ways that, I do not think they want me to expose them. I want them to explain to me in open court why they came after me.
How does the FBI do this? They know you had a bunch of, government and cabinet and White House and Defense Department people, and they don't go after any of them. They go after you, and then instead of just dropping it and leaving you alone, they've made
a huge mess out of this. They've made it because what I think happened is they used me. I was a hunting ground. I keep using that term because I think it's so applicable. I was a hunting ground. They thought I had something, perhaps. They were watching me for years. Again, they were not watching me for a few months. They were watching me for anywhere from 2.5 to 6 years. I was a very routine person. All of a sudden, here I go, and I abruptly quit the business. Now, if you're watching me from afar, this could be in a very Hoover-esque-like fashion. This could be very alarming. She shuts down the business. She's selling her house. She's moving. Oh, my God, what's going on? They've come flying out here to California. And it was tipped off, by the way, by a wire transfer from my bank.